A little thing about what I as a contractor used to do. I did a lot of really careful estimating and project managing. And when I did some stopwatching, and the crew didn't like it very much, as you can tell, right? But it was nothing to do with their workmanship or their speed. What I wanted to do is I needed to know every task, how long it took, so I could be a better estimator. Because what we as contractors do is we really sell our service. We really don't make much money on selling a block or any of the dirt or anything else that we have on the site. We are selling our service, our crew, and how well we do that. And we really need to make sure that we manage that well. So I stopwatched. So on a paver, excavation prep work, that was one task. Installation of base was another task, compacting and all the rest of it. Installation of the sand, screeding it, was another task. I knew how many man hours that took per ton of material, depending on where I staged my material. I knew how many tons of gravel, sand I could move with a wheelbarrow, X number of feet. I knew how many tons of sand and gravel I could move with a bobcat, X number of feet, depending on where my staging area was. I knew how many hours of saw cutting or guillotine cutting each guy could do on the project, approximately. And so I would time everything. I knew how many hours, how many square feet per hour we could install Holland herringbone versus a cobblestone random fish scale. And it was significantly different. Every pattern, every paver had a different time task analysis all the way through, and the last one was cleanup. You'd be surprised, it was shocking. Sometimes cleanup was 10 to 12% of all my working day. It was absolutely stunning. Every day, at the end of the day, 1.5 to 2 hours of man hours was used to clean up, to put the tools away and deal with it. At the end of the project, that if I had ordered 3 tons of sand too much, you know what we were doing with it? First we bought it, we delivered it, and now I was going to shovel it back into the truck and take it away and dump it. Can you imagine the cost of that? It's gigantic, absolutely gigantic. So you need to know what the cost analysis of that is, and you need to be able to order properly, deliver properly. Don't over-deliver, don't under-deliver. All those kind of things are really tune your company that way. And it's really important. So at the end of the day, I had these projects, and I had 136 man hours it's going to take to do this project. The foreman had that 136 man hours and knew what the hours we estimated for every task on that site. He had to record every day how many hours of every task he had done. At the end of that, I took all that information, put it back into a computer program, and we had a cost analysis, and I started seeing where I was out, what areas I was not doing well in. So I had to go back, and I could see it by the foreman. Some foremans were better managers than others. So we had to start teaching and training or change the process that we were working with. Profit and loss. If you have a 5-day project and you have you go to your 6th day. All right? You go to your 6th day, you now are 20% cost overrun. Imagine that. The project that you just estimated to be 5 days, and you go to 6 days, 20% overrun on your labor cost in your analysis. That is so significant that we sometimes don't have 20% in our profit margin. to absorb that. So we really, really need to manage this whole process of contracting really, really well. And for me, as with 12 crews, it was a nightmare. If anybody has more than 2 or 3 crews here, you guys know you know how difficult it is to manage crews. Then go to 12 crews. Now go to 2 countries. And you have to have systems in place. Otherwise you can't survive. You can't. All right? So really work on that part of the business. Contracting is already incredibly difficult because we have to wear so many hats. We have to have the ability to sell, to promote. We have to negotiate with our suppliers. We have to negotiate with our crews. We have to babysit these guys, right? So manage your cost stuff really, really well and look at it as like a factory in the sense that you're selling your services and you can't be cost overrun. But it's an incredibly important part of it. And that was the one area that I figured out really, really quickly. That was where I was going to break or lose it, right? I was going to make it or lose it on just the managing of the money. Not, I could do the work. I had all the skills to do the work and do the project. But if I didn't manage that project properly, it was difficult. As foremans, we kept our skeleton crew together. It was basically a 3-man crew, was our regular size crew for all our pavers and walls. Sometimes on larger commercial work we got to 5 or 6 people, but generally it was 3-man crew. And all our foremans were working foremans. And one of the really unique things is a foreman needs to have an awareness of what time is. And if he was in the backyard working on something and he heard the saw go, and the saw was at a rhythm, he knew that saw was supposed to be at a particular rhythm to meet X number of feet per man hour of installation of the edge. When that saw started changing rhythms, when that saw started stopping, within minutes he had to say, okay, what's going on? He got up and he checked to see why the saw was changing rhythms and why the saw was stopping in order to make sure that he met his task requirements. And sometimes it was no reason at all. But sometimes the equipment broke down. Sometimes things happen. But it was important for the foreman to manage by sound, by awareness of how long things should take, so that if you're halfway through a project and you're realizing this is taking longer, we need to reorganize maybe and restructure our processes. He has to be visual. He has to just be aware of how things are managed. And that is an important part of being a good foreman. Some guys have it and some guys don't. But we can try teaching that. But as anybody that's a foreman here, really work on being aware of things, what you need. Prepare yourself for the next day. Make sure you order ahead. Figure out what your tasks are the next day. I broke down my days as a foreman. I would break it down into 4 parts. Morning to coffee break to lunch, lunch to coffee break to the end of the day. And I broke my day down. So there was 5 working days on that project. Well, every day was broken down to what I wanted to complete at the end of that day, so that I met my 5-day goal of finishing it. And we didn't have coffee break or lunch at a particular time. It wasn't at 10 o'clock. It was when our task was done, and then we could finish our coffee. We could have our coffee break. Our task to our noon time had to be done before we had noon break. And I would stay an extra hour at the end of the day in order to complete the task that day because what happens when you add that next hour, crew hour, to the next day? You're behind the 8 ball. You're now behind. You can't catch up. And so you need to make sure that we understand what tasks need to be done so that we can really manage our crew time, because that's all we have, crew time. And if we have a rainy day, that's lost crew time. So those are important things to manage in being good, profitable company. And profit is good. All right? Sorry for boring you guys. But thanks so much for coming to visit, and I hope you use the product. And thank you.